If you have 50 different plug types, appliances wouldn't be available and would be very expensive. But once an electric outlet becomes standardized, many companies can design appliances and competition ensues, creating variety and better prices for consumers. Skype actually does get a fair bit of revenue. People always fear change. People feared electricity when it was invented, didn't they? People feared coal, they feared gas-powered engines. There will always be ignorance, and ignorance leads to fear. But with time, people will come to accept their silicon masters. The worst pandemic in modern history was the Spanish flu of 1918, which killed tens of millions of people. Today, with how interconnected the world is, it would spread faster. There are people who don't like capitalism and people who don't like PCs. But there's no one who likes the PC who doesn't like Microsoft. I have seen firsthand that agricultural science has enormous potential to increase the yields of small farmers and lift them out of hunger and poverty. I really had a lot of dreams when I was a kid, and I think a great deal of that grew out of the fact that I had a chance to read a lot. Life is not fair. Get used to it. Life is not divided into semesters. You don't get summers off, and very few employers are interested in helping you find yourself. Well, no one gives aid to Zimbabwe through the Mugabe government. I have an excellent memory, a most excellent memory. Everyone needs a coach. It doesn't matter whether you're a basketball player, a tennis player, a gymnast, or a bridge player. When you want to do your homework, fill out your tax return, or see all the choices for a trip you want to take, you need a full-size screen. At Microsoft, there are lots of brilliant ideas, but the image is that they all come from the top. I'm afraid that's not quite right. The nuclear approach I'm involved in is called a traveling wave reactor, which uses waste uranium for fuel. There's a lot of things that have to go right for that dream to come true. Many decades of building demo plants, proving the economics are right. But if it does, you could have cheaper energy with no CO2 emissions. When the PC was launched, people knew it was important. Bitcoin is mostly about anonymous transactions, and I don't think over time that's a good way to go. I'm a huge believer in digital currency, but doing it on an anonymous basis, I think that leads to some abuses, so I'm not involved in Bitcoin. I have been struck again and again by how important measurement is to improving the human condition. The most interesting biofuel efforts avoid using land that's expensive and has high opportunity costs. They do this by getting onto other types of land or taking advantage of byproducts that aren't used in the food chain today, or by intercropping. Measles will always show you if someone isn't doing a good job on vaccinations. Kids will start dying of measles. Security is, I would say, our top priority because for all the exciting things you will be able to do with computers, organizing your lives, staying in touch with people, being creative, if we don't solve these security problems, then people will hold back. Should there be cameras everywhere in outdoor streets? My personal view is having cameras in inner cities is a very good thing. In the case of London, petty crime has gone down. They catch terrorists because of it. And if something really bad happens, most of the time you can figure out who did it. In American math classes, we teach a lot of concepts poorly over many years. In the Asian systems, they teach you very few concepts very well over a few years. I think the thing we see is that as people are using video games more, they tend to watch passive TV a bit less. And so, using the PC for the internet, playing video games, is starting to cut into the rather unbelievable amount of time people spend watching TV. If you think your teacher is tough, wait until you get a boss. He doesn't have tenure. Helping convene global stakeholders to establish a set of measurable, actionable and consensus-built goals focused on extreme poverty is invaluable. Certainly, I'll never be able to put myself in the situation that people growing up in the less developed countries are in. I've gotten a bit of a sense of it by being out there and meeting people and talking with them. Be nice to nerds. Chances are you'll end up working for one. We are in the throes of a transition where every publication has to think of their digital strategy. If your culture doesn't like geeks, you are in real trouble. Historically, privacy was almost implicit because it was hard to find and gather information. But in the digital world, whether it's digital cameras or satellites, or just what you click on, we need to have more explicit rules, not just for governments, but for private companies. A first-generation fortune is the most likely to be given away, but once a fortune is inherited, it's less likely that a very high percentage will go back to society.